This is a dojo, not a place for kids from the slums.
Victoria's voice sliced through the air like a cold blade. The rhythmic thuds of punching bags stopped. Every head turned. In the middle of the mat stood a small black girl, her worn sneakers scuffed with dust, arms wrapped tightly around a faded canvas bag. Her name was Kesha Campbell, 12 years old, newly transferred from the Bronx, a neighborhood whose very name made people shake their heads. But there was no fear in Kesha's eyes, only a thin, bright glint, like the instant before lightning strikes. And from that moment on, everyone in the dojo would witness a storm no one had seen coming. The sound of fists pounding sandbags echoed through the bright room. A dozen 12-year-olds trained in unison, their punches landing like tiny drums. It was a Saturday afternoon at Sterling Dojo, a place reserved only for special students. The door swung open. Every gaze shifted toward the newcomer. Dark skin, neatly braided hair, an old gym bag slung over her shoulder, and torn sneakers. She stood hesitantly in the doorway, heart racing, as if she'd stepped into a world not meant for her. "Well, look who we have here," a sharp voice sneered. It was Victoria Sterling, blonde-haired, the head coach's daughter and the dojo's golden girl. Tilting her head with a mocking smile, she said, "Looks like someone wandered in from the projects." Soft laughter rippled through the room. Punches stopped mid-air. Dozens of eyes fixed on the newcomer. Kesha took a deep breath. "Excuse me," she said quietly. "I'm here through the Youth Scholarship Program." Victoria laughed, her voice bright and metallic. "A scholarship? This is a dojo for real athletes, not some social experiment." From the office stepped Coach Tom Rodriguez, the head instructor who had run the dojo for over 20 years. He held up a printed list. "The program is real, Victoria, and she, Kesha Campbell, is an official student." The room fell silent. Victoria rolled her eyes. "Seriously, Coach? So my father's dojo is turning into a charity now? I'm sure the sponsors will love that." Tom's voice came out rough but steady. "Sponsors pay for results, not arrogance." Victoria smirked. She stepped closer to Kesha, her blue eyes gleaming with challenge. "If you want to prove you belong here, why not do it right now?" The whole class froze. "3 rounds, light sparring," Victoria said. "If you last that long, you stay. If not," she flicked her hand dismissively, "go back to your Bronx." Kesha's gaze didn't waver. "I agree." The calmness of her answer stunned everyone. Victoria raised an eyebrow, as if she'd misheard. "Are you sure? After today, you'll wish you'd never dreamed so big." "I'm sure," Kesha replied. And for the first time, she smiled. No one there knew that in Kingston, Jamaica, they once called her by another name, Lightning. Because only when storms rise does lightning reveal its true power. Word of the friendly match spread quickly through the dojo. Older students, parents, even other instructors gathered around. Everyone wanted to see how long this small black girl could last against their dojo queen. 3 rounds, 16-ounce gloves, no betting, no filming, Coach Tom instructed. Victoria shrugged. "Got it, Coach. It'll be quick. Probably won't even make it through the first round." She had already started recording a selfie video for her social media account. "Hey everyone, a new girl just showed up thinking she can fight me. Lesson of the day, when you dream too big, reality will teach you your limits." Comments flooded in instantly. "Put her in her place! Queen Vic forever!" Meanwhile, Kesha quietly entered the locker room. Her hands were steady, unnaturally calm. Only her heartbeat echoed in her chest like a drum from back home. Coach Tom followed. "Kesha, you don't have to do this. The scholarship's important, sure, but it's not worth getting hurt over someone's pride." "I won't get hurt, Coach," she said, tightening her gloves. "Victoria's the state champion. She's got skill, experience, strength. And I've got something she doesn't." Kesha lifted her head. her eyes bright as lightning. "What's that?" "Hunger." The answer left him speechless. He had trained hundreds of kids, but few had ever spoken that word with such absolute conviction. "Why did you accept the challenge?" he asked softly. "Because I've lived through this before," Kesha said, her tone low and deliberate. "People like Victoria always think they can break us, with words, with looks, with their contempt. But they forget one thing." "What's that?" "Those who fight to survive don't fight to win. They fight to breathe." A chill ran down Tom's spine. He realized this girl hadn't come to be pitied. She had come to prove that willpower was stronger than any title. Outside, Victoria was still performing for the camera. "Look at those shoes. She probably learned how to punch on YouTube." Laughter filled the air, but a few older instructors simply watched quietly. One of them murmured, "That kid, the way she stands, the look in her eyes. I've seen it before. The quiet ones are usually the most dangerous." Victoria didn't listen, or perhaps she chose not to. Her voice dripped with contempt as she went on. "You know what the problem is with poor people. They confuse desperation with talent. They think just because life's been hard, everyone automatically knows how to fight." And at that very moment, the locker room door opened. Kesha stepped out, dressed in a simple white training top. Her small hands were firm, her compact muscles carved by light and persistence. She said nothing, only bowed. No cameras, no cheers, just silence before the storm. The room grew, still. Two girls stood face to face under the training lights, their first beads of sweat glistening in the glow. Victoria Sterling, blonde ponytail, red chest guard, icy stare, circled her opponent lightly, like a cat pretending to be harmless before it pounces. "Get ready for your first lesson, rookie," she said mockingly. Kesha Campbell simply replied, "I was born ready." No one there knew that behind those calm eyes lay the memories of another life. At only 8 years old, in the poor southern blocks of Kingston, Kesha had learned to use her fists, not for play, but for survival. Those small street fights she joined with older kids were how her family earned a meal. Every punch, every dodge was a choice between hunger and food. By 12, she had a nickname, Lightning, not because she hit the hardest, but because she saw her opponents before they moved, faster than sight itself. When she received her scholarship to the United States, Kesha had sworn never to fight again. She wanted a clean start, a quiet life, free of blood and violence. But some vows are born to be tested, especially when pride is trampled. Coach Tom knelt and adjusted her gloves. Beneath her thin skin, her small muscles felt like steel cables. "Kesha," he said quietly, "tell me honestly, you've never fought for real before, have you?" The girl smiled faintly, a small, gentle curve of her lips. "What does for real mean, Coach?" The question stopped him cold. There was something in her eyes, calm yet razor sharp, as if she hadn't come to learn, but to remember something long forgotten. Across the room, Victoria was still busy filming. "Hey guys," she said into her phone. "Get ready for a humility lesson. We've got a little visitor from, what was it, Jamaica? So cute. Hope she doesn't cry." Laughter burst from her group of friends. Coach Tom tried to reassure the room. "It's just a light sparring session. No one's getting hurt." But deep down, he knew this wasn't just a game anymore. The dojo door swung open. A middle-aged man with dark skin and graying hair entered, his posture straight, his eyes seasoned with life. Kesha froze. Her eyes widened. "Uncle Winston?" The man nodded. "Lightning." The name cracked through the quiet room like thunder. Several older students exchanged looks, trying to recall where they'd heard it before. "What are you doing here, Uncle?" Kesha asked softly. "I flew in from Miami," he said, his Jamaican accent thick and familiar. "Heard you were about to do something foolish. We promised we'd leave all that behind. Coach Tom stepped closer, curious. You two know each other? Winston studied him for a moment. I've known this girl since she was 8, and I can tell you, that blonde kid has no idea who she's about to face. Meanwhile, in the corner, Victoria kept filming her TikTok. Look, she even brought her family to watch. That's adorable. At least she'll have someone to comfort her afterward. The comment section was already exploding. Victoria's going to crush her. Show her what a real American looks like. Winston watched for a moment, then shook his head. Arrogant, just like the kids back on Kingston streets, he muttered. Then, turning to Tom, he said, Be careful, a storm's coming. Tom frowned. Who is she really, Winston? The man sighed. You ever heard the name Lightning Campbell? In Jamaica, everyone knows it. She used to beat boys 3 times her size. Not for trophies, but to stay alive. Tom stood stunned, glancing at Kesha, who was now practicing quietly in the corner. Every punch crisp, precise. Her rhythm so perfect that the timer beeped in sync. Then why agree to fight Victoria? He asked. Because. Winston looked toward Victoria, who was still grinning at her phone. Some people mistake kindness for weakness, but Lightning never tolerated being looked down on. Not for her color, not for where she came from. Kesha approached them, sweat glistening on her forehead. Uncle Winston, what are you telling Coach Tom? Just the truth, he said. That you're not the helpless little girl they think you are. Kesha shook her head. I don't want anyone to know that. Know what? Winston asked. That you're Lightning? You've been scrubbing dojo floors for months to start over. But when someone insults you for the color of your skin, no new life can hide what's in your blood. The room fell silent. Coach Tom looked at Kesha, a shiver running down his spine. Kesha, he asked softly, why did you really accept this challenge? She didn't answer right away. Her gaze lingered on Victoria, still smiling brightly for the camera, unaware that the storm in front of her was ready to explode. The dojo went utterly still. When Kesha finally spoke, her voice was rough, carrying a depth Tom had never heard in a child. Because people like Victoria Sterling always think they can look down on us, turn us into a joke, just because of our skin color or where we come from, she said slowly, each word striking the air like a hammer. She looks at me and sees someone weak. A pity story for TikTok. A way to get views. Kesha paused. Her eyes flashed with a strange, quiet fire. But where I come from, respect isn't given. You have to earn it. With sweat, with pain. And when someone tries to take your dignity, she smiled faintly, a smile both gentle and dangerous. Sometimes Lightning has to remind the world why people fear the storm. The bell rang. The 2 girls stepped onto the mat, facing each other. Victoria inhaled deeply, sprang forward, fists flying in rapid bursts. But they struck nothing but air. What the? Victoria gasped. Kesha had already slipped away, moving like smoke, too fast for the eye to follow. Every pivot, every lean, every sidestep was eerily precise, as if she could read her opponent's thoughts. Stand still, Victoria shouted, throwing a heavy punch. In that half-second of imbalance, Kesha countered. A clean left hook, sharp, decisive, landed squarely on Victoria's cheek. The sound cracked through the room. Victoria stumbled back, dazed, touching her face in disbelief. No way. But Kesha was already moving again, smooth, controlled, unstoppable. The next strikes came like rhythm, jab, cross, dodge. Each hit was measured, not cruel, but corrective. The dojo was dead silent. No laughter, no whispers. Only the sound of Victoria's ragged breathing and the mat creaking beneath Kesha's feet. Round 2 began. Victoria, her face flushed red, charged with all her strength. But anger made her clumsy. Kesha stepped back lightly, then advanced. 4 quick movements. Left, right, block, lift. 4 strikes in under 2 seconds. Victoria fell. Cheers erupted. The children leapt to their feet, shouting, "Oh my God, Kesha won!" Coach Tom's voice trembled as he counted, 10, knockout! Kesha stood still, breathing evenly. She didn't raise her hands. She didn't smile. She simply approached her fallen opponent and said quietly, "You said you wanted to teach me a lesson. I hope you understand now. Respect isn't about skin color or money. It's about how we treat others." Victoria looked up, tears pooling in her eyes. For the first time, there was no arrogance in them, only surrender and a flicker of admiration. That night, footage of the match spread across social media. No one laughed anymore. No one called it a charity scholarship again. Instead, the comments overflowed with, "That Jamaican girl is incredible." A lesson in humility for all of us. Meanwhile, Victoria sat alone in her room, her phone screen glowing. Clips mocking her filled the internet. Her laughter before the fight, her defeat, Kesha bowing at the end. A new kind of storm had arrived, not from fists, but from the justice of the public. 3 months later, Victoria Sterling, once the pride of the dojo, now sat in a small, quiet room, her old medals hanging lifelessly on the wall. She had lost her star student title, her sponsorship revoked. Her former coach had said only one sentence, "It's not because you lost, it's because of how you lost." Kesha Campbell, the girl who once mopped the floors and was mocked for her torn shoes, now held an honorary full scholarship. She was chosen as a youth ambassador for the city's children's program. No one called her Lightning anymore. She was simply Kesha, the girl who turned humiliation into a lesson for the world. Late that night, Coach Tom stood at the dojo entrance, watching the Manhattan lights flicker across the glass. Inside, Kesha was teaching a small group of new students. "Don't fight to show off your strength," she told them. "Fight to understand how strong you truly are when you have to protect what's right." Tom smiled, because on that stormy day, it wasn't just one girl who won a match. An entire generation learned that true strength doesn't lie in the punch, but in how you use it to defend your dignity. In the months that followed the match, everything changed so quickly that no one could quite keep up. What had begun as a small scholarship program turned the Sterling Dojo into a beacon for the entire city. Sports brands rushed to sponsor it. Under Armour even launched a collection called Earned Not Given. Across America, kids from poor neighborhoods sent in applications. The waiting list grew to more than 500 names. The story of the little black girl with the torn sneakers had inspired more people than any marketing campaign ever could. In the dojo's small office, Coach Tom Rodriguez received a phone call that left him momentarily speechless. "Hello, this is ESPN. We'd like to make a documentary about how you discovered Lightning Campbell." He chuckled. "I didn't discover anything," he said. "That girl always knew who she was. I just happened to see her worth before I saw her punches." Uncle Winston still visited Kesha often. Every time he asked the same question, "Remember what I told you about hunger?" Kesha nodded, smiling. "I do now. It's not about where we come from. It's about the fire we carry inside." As for Victoria Sterling, the once smirking blonde prodigy, her path turned long and quiet. She tried to apologize publicly on YouTube, but the comments were merciless. She attempted a comeback, but no trainer would take her. Sponsorship deals vanished as fast as lights turning off. In a small interview, Victoria finally bowed her head for the first time. "I was wrong. Kesha Campbell isn't just a good fighter. She's someone I should have respected from the start. My prejudice made me blind." But social media doesn't forget easily. Her apology video became another meme. When Sports Illustrated kids asked Kesha about it, she simply smiled. "I'm not angry at her. Anger only makes you weaker. I'd rather use that energy to build bridges for girls like me." And so, the Lightning Dreams Foundation was born. Within 2 years, it had helped more than 300 girls from underprivileged communities gain access to sports training. The foundation's first dojo opened in Kingston, Jamaica, the very place where Kesha had once learned to fight just to survive. At the grand opening, Kesha stood on stage, holding a microphone in those same small hands that had once brought an arrogant opponent to her knees. Her voice echoed through the speakers. "This story isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about dignity, about proving that respect doesn't come from status or skin color, but from character." The entire hall rose to its feet, applauding. Then she continued. "Victoria Sterling gave me the greatest gift of all. She underestimated me. And when someone underestimates you, you have two choices. Let them dim your light, or use it as fuel to shine brighter." From the front row, Coach Tom wiped a tear. In decades of teaching, he had never seen anyone turn humiliation into something so beautiful. Years later, when Lightning Campbell became the world youth champion, a reporter asked how she felt. She didn't thank her coach or mention prize money. She simply said, "I want to thank everyone who ever tried to put me down, because they taught me that true strength doesn't come from where we're born or the color of our skin. It comes from never allowing others to define our limits." That night, in a small rented apartment, Victoria Sterling watched the match on TV. When the referee raised Kesha's hand, she whispered, "A person can be born with talent, but greatness, that's forged in the fire of adversity." She smiled faintly, the smile of someone who had finally learned life's hardest lesson. The stage lights glimmered on Kesha's face, a mix of sweat and tears. She hadn't just won a match in a Manhattan dojo. She had rewritten what strength and self-respect truly meant. And as Coach Tom once said, "A storm doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it clears the sky." The room was quiet again. When Kesha spoke, her voice came out rough, low, and steady, a tone Coach Tom had never before heard in a child. "Because people like Victoria Sterling always think they can look down on us, turn us into a joke, just because of our skin color, just because of where we were born," Kesha said slowly, every word striking the air like a nail being driven in. "She looks at me and sees someone weak, a pity story to film for TikTok, something to get views." Kesha paused. Her eyes shone with a strange, fierce light. "But where I come from, respect isn't given. You have to earn it, with sweat and pain. And when someone tries to take your dignity—" She smiled faintly, a smile both tender and dangerous. "Sometimes lightning has to remind the world why people fear the storm." The bell rang. The two girls stepped into the center of the mat, facing each other. Victoria took a deep breath and lunged forward. Her punches sliced through the air, fast, furious, but hit only emptiness. "What the hell?" Victoria gasped. Kesha had vanished from her range, moving like smoke, so fast the eye couldn't follow. Every pivot, every tilt, every slide was unnervingly precise, as if she were reading her opponent's mind. "Stand still," Victoria shouted, throwing her strongest punch. At that very instant, off balance for a fraction of a second, she left an opening. Kesha countered. A clean, sharp left, crisp as thunder, connected with her opponent's cheek. The sound cracked through the room. Victoria stumbled back, eyes wide in disbelief. "No way!" But Kesha was already moving again, swift, measured, exact. The next strikes came in rhythm, jab, cross, dodge. Each blow carried no hatred, only a lesson. The dojo fell completely silent. No one laughed anymore, only the sound of Victoria's labored breathing and Kesha's steady footfalls on the wooden floor. Round 2 began. Victoria's face burned red as she threw herself forward with everything she had, but anger made her clumsy. Kesha stepped back half a pace, then forward. 4 moves, left, right, block, lift, too fast to count. Victoria fell to the ground. Cheers erupted. The other kids jumped to their feet, shouting, "Oh my God, Kesha won!" Coach Tom's voice trembled as he counted, 10, knockout. Kesha didn't raise her arms. She didn't smile. She simply walked over to the girl being helped up and said quietly, You said you wanted to teach me a lesson. I hope you've learned it. That respect doesn't come from skin color or money, but from how we treat each other." Victoria looked up, tears streaming down her face. For the first time, her eyes held no arrogance, only defeat and a flicker of admiration. That night, the video of the match spread across social media. No one talked about charity scholarships anymore. Instead, comments flooded in. "That Jamaican girl is unbelievable." A lesson in humility for all of us. In a small, dim room, the glow of a phone screen lit Victoria's face. Clips mocking her flooded the internet. Her laughter, her fall. Kesha's respectful bow. A new storm had risen. This time, not from fists, but from the justice of the crowd. 3 months later, Victoria Sterling, once the pride of the dojo, now sat in a cramped room, old medals hanging quietly on the wall. She had lost her star student title, her sponsorships gone. Her old coach said only one sentence: "It's not because you lost, it's because of how you lost." Kesha Campbell, the girl who once scrubbed dojo floors in torn sneakers, now held a full scholarship and was chosen as the face of the city's youth program. No one called her Lightning anymore. Now she was simply Kesha, the girl who turned humiliation into a lesson for the world. Late that evening, Coach Tom stood by the dojo doors, watching the Manhattan lights reflect off the glass. Inside, Kesha was instructing a small group of new students. "Don't fight to show off," she told them. "Fight to understand how strong you are when you have to protect what's right." Tom smiled softly, because on that stormy day, it wasn't just one girl who won. It was an entire generation that learned. True strength isn't in the punch itself, but in how you use it to defend your dignity. That day, in a small dojo, in the heart of Manhattan, a 12-year-old black girl made everyone fall silent. Not because her punches were powerful, but because she fought with something no one could teach, the pride of someone who knows her own worth. Kesha Campbell didn't just win a match. She defeated the fear of being underestimated. She broke the belief that poverty or dark skin were barriers. And, most of all, she reminded everyone that respect isn't something handed down. It's something given, fairly and freely. Because real strength doesn't lie in the punch. It lies in the silence that follows, after you've proven yourself through action. Kesha's story isn't only about effort. It's a reminder to all of us. When someone says, "You don't belong here," smile. And answer with your journey. Because sometimes storms don't come to destroy. They come to clear the sky. If this story touched you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs a little faith to stand tall again, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartfelt stories about justice, resilience, and human dignity.